Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Black British Parent Podcast. And today we have another amazing guest, Stephen from the MindBubbles project. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. I normally start with an icebreaker. Quick
Okay.
question, just a
Is it
get a
just
feelers.
one?
Just
Is
one
it one
question.
icebreaker?
Just one question. Can you share with us your favorite film, if you have one?
My favorite film.
Yeah.
I don't have. I have favorite films.
Okay.
Can I kind of roll them off?
We can go there, yeah.
So one of my favorite films. Okay, I'm have to think about this one, so I'll get it right. It's a comedy. It's got Ben Stiller in it. I'm trying to remember the name. Where it's got the guy from Iron Man,
What's his name?
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, Robert Downey.
And he's a character. He plays a black man.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like that because of him playing a black man. What was that? That's
Yeah,
the
but
army one,
it was
innit?
done
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the.
It was because he's an actor in the
Yeah,
film.
so he's method acting. So he
I
goes
forgot what it was called.
full.
I know which one you're talking about.
Like even outside of the filming,
Yeah.
because it's a film about a film.
Can you find it, Dwayne?
One of my favorite films is Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Okay.
I love that film. Me and my son used to watch that like every weekend. And
Is that Ben Stiller again? Yeah.
no, it's
Don't Mess with the Zohan.
Adam Sandler.
Sandler, that's it. I keep getting
And
mixed up.
we would literally cry on the floor.
Yeah, it's nuts. So.
Even though I knew what was coming, we would still end up. 'Cause I think laughter is good for the soul. In terms of serious films, a couple of Spike Lee's, obvious one, Malcolm X.
The first one was a Tropic Sun.
Yeah, Tropical Sun.
His face lit up when he's like, yeah.
Tropical Sun. I love comedies.
Tropical Sun.
Yeah, I love comedies. Babylon,
Okay.
obviously, because I tell young people, if you want to get a snapshot of my childhood,
That's a
and
good
how
film.
difficult it was for people of color. Like, obviously, the racism now, it's more covert, so it's hidden. But those times, it was quite obvious that we weren't welcome here. So I think, was it made early 80s? It was
I think it was the 70s, late 70s, might be early
late
80s.
70s, early 80s. It gave a snapshot of like what life
It
was
might have
like
been
for
80s, yeah.
black people in the UK. So I love that film.
Okay.
I love that film. So that's my UK film. I could probably go on for days, to be honest. Kung Fu films. Enter the Dragon is one of my favourite films. Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers. Jackie Chan, Drunken Master.
Classics.
Yeah.
I was telling Dwayne about Drunken Master the other day. What, you like that film? How you mean?
Yeah, I love those films. We grew up, you used to go to the video shop and
Yeah, I remember
get
back in the day.
The video man always knew what you like. I got some new Kung Fu films.
Then you had
in.
the section that not everybody knew about.
Yeah, you had this stash there. So video shops was like completely obsolete now. Like going to the video shops with your parents, for your parents was like a big thing, isn't it? And it's like Blockbusters went and that was it. Everything's streaming now. A few other films, I'll probably list them. They're going to come to me when we're
So you're a
while we're
movie
doing this.
buff?
I think, it's nice to escape. I think movies are important. They document a part of what's going on. I think, especially for black people, we need to be in charge of how we're seen
Yeah.
outside of our own culture, because a lot of the films that are made about us are not made by us. They're made by other people who see us in a certain type of light, not always positive. So I think it's important that we are able to make films about us that are not just about certain things,
The same narrative over and over again.
Yeah,
The
it's about
stereotypes.
normal families that exist in the world, wherever they're from. So yeah, I'll probably list some more films when.
When they come to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So can you tell us a little bit about the MindBubbles project?
project.
Yeah.
Okay, let me go backwards. So I do workshops, programs, and school classes where I go into schools and I deliver mindfulness workshops with a focus group or class-based or a certain year group based on their needs. So it could be primary school, starting from about year 4, all the way up to year 11 with exam stress, sixth formers with also A-level or BTEC stress, university students, young people in the workplace, community workshops, corporate, if I get a gig. And it's really to help, especially our young people, find ways to basically learn to self-regulate and deal with life's ups and downs. So a toolbox, essentially.
I know this sounds pretty obvious, but what do you mean by self-regulate? Because I feel like, especially with young people, in comparison to how adults think children should be self-regulated, what do you interpret that to be?
The ability to self-regulate is when something happens, how you can then control yourself after the fact. So if something's upset you, being able to like find out what's upset you, why it's upset you, and what you can do to, over time, to kind of like help you anchor yourself. So even today, I was speaking with the year 9s, we had a pastoral reset in the Saturday product I work on, and a lot of them are doing exams because a lot of them start early in year 9, and I asked them who's doing exams. Quite a few put their hands up. Are you feeling anxious about your exams once again? So it's like, what are the things that happen in your body before you go into an exam? So my stomach starts churning, you know. I find it hard to keep still. I find it hard to focus. I'm worried about the outcomes. And it's like, okay, let's use something in you, like your breath, to basically focus on grounding yourself. So it's like some breath work exercise. So one I did today was touching your fingers for about 5 seconds. And then it's like, oh, I noticed that my focus was just in my fingers. So it took me away from what was happening like that. So it's just to trick your brain into thinking that where it's a flight or flight response, it's actually something that will pass, it's fleeting. So if you're able to like ground yourself like an anchor, you know, and I use all of these analogies as in things you can do, you'll notice that it will just pass and you're not actually in danger.
Yeah.
So it's basically like a dangerous animal. An exam is like a saber-toothed tiger, and you're the hunter-gatherer, but we're no longer hunter-gatherers, and you're no longer in physical danger, but your body still perceives something that, like an exam, as a potential danger.
Yeah.
So it's really talking to yourself with kindness to be able to self-regulate. But it takes practice. But I think young people, especially, and that's why I love where they absorb, they're like sponges. So you could do a practice with them and they get it straight away, some of them. Like, oh, this really helps me calm down, but others is a bit, you know, I'm not really sure about this.
Yeah.
Just give it a bit of time, like most things. You weren't born walking or talking, you had to learn to do these things. And it's the same with practicing self-regulation exercises. You have to learn to do it, not just when you're anxious, but to just do it when you feel to do it. And that way you build muscle memory. So when you are feeling a certain type of way, you can just tap into, take something, so we call it a mindfulness toolbox. You take something that works for you, that you know that it will ground you. So even the language that we use self-regulate, we use checking in, temperature check. We're changing the language in terms of, because the young people are very articulate. They know how they feel. It's a question of like, how do I then express that? So it's finding ways of like, I'm not feeling good today. But why are you not feeling good? You know, I didn't have breakfast, you know, I was literally rushing out the door. I forgot my books. Okay, so what we can do now is get you your pencil case, get you fed and watered, back into class. You know, because those are the kind of things that get them into trouble, lack of equipment. is a big thing in schools. If you don't have any equipment, they'll send you to isolation, even though,
No way.
yeah,
So don't schools provide equipment?
they do and they don't. If you think of schools like pre-work environments, so you're learning life skills. So the older you get, the more life skills you will attain. And then by year 11, you should be able to do X, Y, Z.
Should be able to, yeah.
That's not the case with many of
Yeah.
our young people, because school, in terms of where they priorities, in terms of what's going on in their life, is like, as they want to do well in school, but the
There's other
environment I'm
things,
in
yeah.
outside of school, it's not as easy. You know, I've got to, you know, always worrying about money. My parents are always working. They've got 2 or 3 jobs. Money's tight. You know, I might not necessarily be able to afford all the equipment that the school wants me to get. So having 2 or 3 calculators, you have your normal calculator, you have your scientific calculator, you know, you have to have a special type of ruler, you've got to have all your markers. You know, if you're doing art, you've got to have an art folder, all the different types of pencils, you know, PE equipment, like 20 shoes in all different sizes. So when the shoes start, because they play football in them, they fall apart, we'll discreetly have a conversation with them, come and get some shoes at lunchtime, you know, throw away the old shoes. I had shoe donations, I put out a couple of campaigns where I asked for worn shoes, and people delivered shoes. Thank you to the community. And they came out, we got clothes, we got shirts, you know, generic
I think
shirts.
I remember that, yeah.
You know, so I think if the community is aware of the hardships many families faced, then it's when the kids coming in, they're not having to worry about what they look like now, because they might have been wearing the same clothes for a couple of days, or food, where, you know, the meal in school might be their only hot food that they have for the day. So we're dealing with many issues within our community in terms of like hardship, you know. So it's making sure we equip them with all the things that they need to be able to go into class and just worry about learning, rather than, I don't know if
Issues
I'm...
at home.
Yeah.
Do you have you seen or noticed, because you've been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
and have you seen the difference more recently? Has it got more worse in terms of the hardships?
Yeah. So I think from COVID, I think it was always tough, but I think COVID compounded hardships for a lot of parents. You know, some people that had jobs, COVID came, industries closed down, whatever they were doing, they were let go. It's very hard to find work because a lot of people were furloughed. So if you weren't part of that furlough scheme and you didn't have a way of generating an income, you know, the parents weren't able to work. I mean, they were surviving on bare minimum. So there are lots of kids in homes that they weren't able to be online. No online equipment, no PCs, no laptops, no the tablet things. So they weren't able to get online, or they didn't even have a space to get online because they were sharing with their younger siblings. So there'd be a whole heap of noise. So where they needed quiet and a space for them to just focus on their learning, that wasn't possible. So you had a few kids coming into school physically, but then you had a lot of kids that kind of just online 6 periods a week, 6 periods a day, but then not learning anything.
Yeah,
you know.
because of the home distractions.
Yeah, so I saw a lot of kids come back, and where they never had anxiety before, they
It's
definitely
definitely
did.
got it now.
So the mental health and well-being, we're dealing with a pandemic now, a pandemic after the pandemic.
Yeah.
With mental health and well-being with our young people. It wasn't as obvious before, but it's definitely obvious now in terms of like being around other students, the pressures of like passing exams, pressure from home, being able to like 2 years of education missing. So a lot of them are like, you can see the gaps in their learning, not just academically, but in the way they socially interact. You know, they've missed out on so much, and even though the schools are trying to fill the gap, maybe we might not be able to fill those gaps. So they'll go into work and college and uni at a disadvantage because they're like 2-3 years behind.
Goodness. I was going to ask you, what are schools able to, how they're able to manage with what's happening right now?
Some
if
schools
at
are
all?
really good. I mean, they have well-being centres. They have CAMS, which is the young people mental health teams in schools. So in Islington, most of the schools have a CAMS worker in the school at 1 day a week, which is, that doesn't happen in any London borough. So we can make referrals for the students to go and talk, with the parents' consent, go and talk to CAMS, the doctors, about how they're feeling, and they can then signpost them to the appropriate services.
And parents are consenting?
Yeah.
That's good.
Some are not, which makes it 10 times harder, because you want to get them the right help at the right time. If it's been going on for a good number of years, it's going to be a slow process to get them back into a place where they were before COVID. But I mean, a lot of them are aware of their mental health, even if they don't talk about it, which is a start in itself. So it's like changing the language around how we see mental health, especially in the black community. I'm a strong advocate for looking after yourself. And it's not something we've probably done as a community very well because of all the stigma attached to it. Like when we describe people who have bad mental health, they're mad or they're crazy, But a lot of people have gone through things and not got the right help at the right time.
So you say especially with the black community, why is that?
I think we're dealing with our own generational trauma. And that's kind of, it feels to me like it's embedded in our families. So
It's come to be normalised to something to live
so
with.
some of the ways we behave are like, I was talking to a couple of kids about like getting physical punishment, and for a lot of them it's quite normal, and they kind of co-sign their parents' behaviour to say, this is what happens, and then I asked them, why do you think that is? And they couldn't answer it. Like, it's what we do, and it's like, but do you know why we do it?
What happens when they come to that realisation?
The light bulb goes on. So it's like, when you have kids, what are you going to do? And it's like, hopefully so I won't beat them. And it's like, it's learned behaviour. Yeah? And some things we do as parents, we shouldn't do. And there isn't anybody to kind of correct us.
Them. And they don't know any better or any different.
And they don't know any better. And it's a thing where, as a parent, you really need to do your own shadow work before. I mean, it doesn't always happen most cases. Do your own shadow work before you become a parent, so you can be the best version of yourself.
And if it can't be then, at least definitely try whilst you're being a parent.
Yeah, definitely try whilst early years. Don't leave it till they're grown to be like, oh, I've got to go away and do my self-work. And then the young person's like, well, why didn't you do it when I was young, when I needed the nurture? Because I think from what I've found, that the early years are the most important years. And if we get that wrong, it's very difficult to pull that young person back.
Yeah.
Because they don't know any better. So when you're talking to them calmly and they're not used to, they're used to chastisement. So we're not even talking about the beating, it's how you're spoken to. So when you've done something wrong, where you told what you did wrong and how you need to correct it. No, I just got a beating. So then what was the point of the beating?
Yeah.
Because you haven't learned anything.
Yeah.
You just learned that if I do this, I'm going to get into trouble. But why are you getting into trouble? Yeah? Why are you getting into trouble? Because you did something that you weren't supposed to do, and you've been told why you shouldn't do it, but there'll be a sanction. But I don't need to put my hand on you. I just need to take your phone away, you're finished.
Yeah.
That has more...
But even then, sometimes the reason ain't even a real reason. It just might be that the parents triggered themselves.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So there's... Yeah.
Yeah, because you usually go on what you learned from your parents, and it's like early years raising my son. Yeah, I was really, really short. And then I had to step back and realise that the way I was talking to him, I was modelling a behaviour.
Yeah.
So I had to just really think about how I was communicating. And my children are really emotional, both of them. So it was a thing where, how do I let them know that what they're doing is wrong without all the historical stuff?
I appreciate that as well, because sometimes when we have these kinds of conversations about how we discipline our children, for those of us who are still disciplining our children in the old school way, they kind of feel like what we're saying is really challenging them, and so they
Really?
dig their heels in and say, no, but this is our culture.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, whenever I speak about these things personally, I'm not trying to chastise anyone or judge anyone in a negative light, just trying to obviously share the information so they can know differently, innit? So I appreciate that.
If you know better, then you try and do better.
Of course, and no one's perfect, you know.
Yeah.
No one's without flaws, but we can educate ourselves and each other if possible.
Yeah, I mean, if you know, for me, the best way of not correcting a young person is by modeling the behavior you want to see.
Yeah.
And for me, I will live by that. So in the morning, if you come into my space, if you haven't said morning, go back outside, come back in. Morning, sir. And before you know it, morning.
Without you having to say anything.
Yeah. Because if I'm saying morning to you, I'm expecting the morning back. And it takes a lot of me having to say morning to you. And then you're just looking at me. Go back outside and come back in. The first time you see me in the day, and it's usually in the morning, I'm expecting a morning. That's the bare minimum.
That's crazy, because a lot of children don't see their parents in the morning to even begin that conditioning or that understanding from young. So it's always a benefit when you have respected elders in your spaces that can, you know, add to like that village mindset and help teach and nurture our young people certain things. Yeah, man, that's wicked.
Because a lot of them have been taught manners, but they choose not to use it.
There's that too.
And I'm an advocate for manners. So where a lot of adults don't pull them up, I will pull you up. And I'm not talking to you until I get a morning or afternoon, especially when I'll just ignore you. And it'll be like morning. And most challenging students in my school, it's like morning, sir. Morning, how are you today? And we're having a conversation. There's no shouting. Like, why are you doing that? Because we have to take their phones in the morning. Everyone line up on the blue line, please. Every other teacher shouting. I haven't got time to start my day at 8 o'clock shouting at anybody. That just sets the tone.
Yeah. And it stresses you out. Puts
Yeah, it
stress on your
stresses
body.
you. If you're shouting at someone, that's added stress to you. That's how your day is going to continue. So I see a lot of that in schools, just shouting. And it's like, when in the history of education has shouting been effective?
And it's mad, because if children are coming from that as well, and then they're going into the school environment and they're experiencing that too, there's no break for them.
There's no break. It's just in my ears, and then they shut down, you know. And the best educators I've seen and the people with presence don't say anything. Just come into a space. Everyone just fix up. Hasn't said a thing. And I was like, how did they do that? Just being present. It's like, I'm entering the space now. Yeah, I'm gonna give you about 5 minutes for Unu to adjust yourself, and they adjust themselves, shoes, socks, and it's like, wow. I watched them, you know, and they're calm, they're measured with their words.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's through experience and through understanding that a kid will respect you if you live by your word. If you do this, if you cross that line, I'm gonna sanction you. If you stay within that space and we respect each other, over time, for me, it's about building relationships. If you're building a relationship with a young person who's probably never had a positive relationship, seeing a black man in a school who is confident in himself. So it's not that you're having black men in schools or black or mixed race men in schools that are trying to climb the ladder and they behave a certain type of way. If you have a black man who's confident in his culture, that's a different flex. That's like, sir is about himself. So wearing this type of T-shirt, speaking about my culture, where I'm from, having a certain amount of pride, knowing my history, you know, these are the things that, for me, I don't see a lot of. So it's almost like, I see it and I understand it, but they don't. It's like, it's a bit weird for them, you know, because usually, especially when we have like teachers from abroad, from the Caribbean or Africa, they're probably more harder than the white teachers, because it's like they come with that they haven't lived here or they're not born here, so they don't understand racism from like a young age. It's all very global racism. So it's like, why would you not do here? You have everything that you need. But we're sitting at the bottom of the food chain, and it's only when you come in for a couple of years and you realise that
how peak it is.
like the school system is another instrument of the whole system, which means that for a young black person or mixed to do well, you got to jump through like loads of hoops before the other students doing that. You know, you're perceived a certain way as soon as they walk into a room. So I'm trying to teach them, like, don't give them any reason to be like perceiving you a certain way. And if you do, you call them out, you know, for their unconscious bias and their profiling. And they're like, yeah, use the language. You know, if they're marking you low for whatever reasons, you challenge them. And that all happens. If they're saying that 5 people did this, but you did that, and nobody else gets corrected, then you challenge them.
Yeah.
You know, or nothing will change. So we can't change the system, but the young people can. You know, they have I'm tired now. I've got loads of grey hairs. They're energized, you know, and all it takes is one to make a stance, and you'll see, okay, the others will now with this. They'll be like, no, there needs to be change. And they're tired anyway. Nothing's changed for like 50, 60 years.
No, it hasn't. You speaking about your T-shirt, please tell us about your T-shirt.
So for me, it's about decolonizing the education system and not changing it to a way that suits us, but to have our voices heard in the right spaces. So not just talking about black people's contribution to the UK in Black History Month. And then getting the black members of staff to deliver assemblies where it's like, we don't need the education, it's you who needs the education. So looking at the curriculum in terms of like, what are you doing that's adding cultural value to these students' lives?
Yeah.
And it's not just black or mixed race, it's all the different ethnic minorities. Yeah, everybody.
Because that's what I was going to say. I mean, I agree 100%, which I know you know. But, you know, there's other people that might think, why do we need to, you know, add the black curriculum to a British education system on the basis that the majority of people that live here are English or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
European.
very true. But where we are, the whole reason why we're here, the whole reason why we're having this conversation is because of Britain's past, and they haven't come to terms with that. How the slaves trade basically kickstarted the Industrial Revolution. How India was probably one of the richest countries in the world before the British came there, and at the end of like 200 years, it was one of the poorest. You know, so we need to have that conversations in terms of context in a history class, where it's like the British Empire went out and did fantastic things. It's like the kids are looking at it like, are you mad? What did they do that was positive? And the teacher's like, we did this. And they're like, nah, you didn't do that. I was told in my house that you did X, Y, and Z. Can you please elaborate? And then the teacher's on the back foot trying to, and it's like getting a young person to debate whether they're wrong or right is a life skill. So if you're going to present an argument in a structured fashion, present your argument. Why would you shut them down?
Because they have a narrative that they want to uphold, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think there are elements of not really respecting a child's mind. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And why would you want to work with kids?
I don't have that answer because I'm not them, but I don't know, because I went to school and, you know, I home educated my children, which is mostly about self-education, really. That's what they will tell you. But like, I know, I think part of my reasons for home educating was because of things like this, in terms of not being able to challenge what they're teaching you, and you have to accept what they're teaching, which is oftentimes incorrect or dated information. And that's one of the things that I struggled with. And it's even like, even now, where my children have gone on to college and they're being taught certain things in college, you know, them even questioning it, they feel like they can question it, they feel comfortable doing so, but it can come across as being disruptive in the classroom, isn't it? So there's those kind of elements of things that I've always had that experience myself, and I know many people have too.
Okay.
Hey family, we hope you're enjoying the show. If you want to stay up to date with all things Black British Parent, we've got the perfect way for you to do just that. Join our mailing list and be the first to know about new episodes, exciting news, and upcoming events. It's super easy to sign up. Just head over to our website and into your email. Don't miss out on the latest from Black British Parent. Join our community today. Now, back to the show.
Because I mean, personal politics is very much part of the whole.
100%.
So
Yeah.
when a young person, like a young lady last week said, we're doing to teach English class, and the English teacher, I was just helping there with pastoral, and it was about politics, politicking, understanding politics. So at the start of the lesson, the kids were confused. What are you talking about? What does it mean? And then when she gradually broke it down, one of the kids, like, her feedback was like, so give me an example of politics. So she was like, being in a school, knowing that you're bottom of the food chain. Yeah, you're just being created to be an obedient member of the workforce after you finish school. So I was like, wow. My girl is 13, 14, and she already understands what's going on.
That's beautiful.
Obedient. So I said, let's zoom in. Obedient. What does obedient mean? Like being told what to do without question. You don't question it, you just do it. That's like a biblical term. Obedient. You know, the term like Caribbean people, you must be obedient.
Yeah.
Or don't be disobedient. It's like, so
That's
you must
also,
challenge your question.
Of course, but that's also great when you've got parents that are educating and preparing their children for that kind of way of being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll always take time if a young person wants to challenge and it's done in the appropriate manner, we can have a conversation. Yeah, as long as it's done respectfully.
Of course,
It's
the art
just
of
about
debate.
you
Yeah.
ranting, you know. But there's lots of conversations needing to be had. You know, we have the whole misogyny thing, all kinds of things going in schools in terms of like how the boys treat girls. And
Wow.
if we shut them down, they won't.
Yeah.
We won't actually know what's going in their
Yeah.
head. And I think a lot of teachers are like, no, how could you say that? It's like, yeah, but if you shut them down now, we won't know how far down, they really respect Andrew Tate.
Is
And
that
I've got to
thing?
have a
I
conversation.
forgot that would be a thing in schools with boys
It's a
right
big
now.
thing.
Gosh.
And there's a few others, Fresh and Fit, a few other Red Pillars.
Yeah.
And it was like, I did a couple of workshops on them because we need to the female staff are feeling uncomfortable.
Gosh.
So they're saying things that are inappropriate. And they'd be like, what makes you think you could say that?
And I suppose when you're able to listen to what they have to say
Yeah.
with an intelligent conversation, you're able to break down what's wrong with some of the things that they're
and
thinking
challenge.
without shutting it down, because then
Yeah.
you can't tap in.
Because if
I
they
hear
shut
that.
down,
Yeah.
they're not going to come back out because they know that I'm going to, I could be in trouble.
So they'll just keep it to themselves but still think what they're thinking
Definitely
and not learn
think
nothing.
it.
Yeah.
Definitely, Andrew Tate was like Jesus to them, a lot of
Gosh.
them. And it was like, so what's this man saying that you feel is so, compelling? And he'd be like, yeah, he's talking about men, but you're not a man. That's the only man in this room is me. Only man in this room is me. Yeah? None of you are men. You're all boys.
How do they take that?
Yeah, man, no, you're not a man. The fact that you're getting upset,
Yeah.
you're not a man yet. Yeah? I don't consider you any time being a man soon. You're not fathers, you're not men. Yeah? So I don't know what you're reading into. And it's like, yeah, they're reading into it because it sounds exciting and it kind of galvanizes them and
Makes them feel confident
Yeah,
in
women are
some
not
kind of way,
strong. I was like, have you ever pushed out a baby?
Tell them again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Women are not physically strong. And you're saying it with full chest. And half of you are incels. And what does it mean? You're not going to get a girlfriend behaving like that because half of them won't have any time for you. So it's like, think about what you're saying before you say it. Yeah? This guy only appeals to boys that don't know what the real world looks like, which says a lot.
Yeah.
Most men of character who know themselves have no time for Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
Tell you that now. There's only little boys like you that will entertain this this foolishness. You know, it's like come to your own conclusions, but be a bit more, what's the word, mindful about what you're reading and how you're reading it. You
That's crazy. I didn't even. I think I've heard that impacting in schools and stuff, or just not even so much schools, just young people. I never imagined that would become an issue like that in schools.
Yeah, you got to have a frank conversation. If he's advocating rape and talking
Gosh.
about if a woman is dressed a certain way,
Yeah.
she's at fault, then we need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know, don't shut it down. Let's
I
have
don't
this.
listen to much of what he says, so
But this is, I
but
have
there
to
are
listen
boys,
to
yeah,
it
you
to
have
know
yeah.
what's going into their minds, you know, and that's how they talk to young girls. So it's like, you could never talk to my daughter like that. Tell you that now, you know.
That's mind blowing.
It is. And then it's educating the girls on valuing themselves. Because I see, oh, you come here. It's like, if you go over there, no one calls you like that. You're not a dog. And even dogs get called like that. Yeah? So it's about, if he wants to come and talk to you, he can bring himself over there. Oi, come here. It's like, yeah, we're going to teach you, this is, you know, young boys talk to girls a certain way and girls allow them to talk to them that way.
Of course, but I think it's always kind of been like that, but perhaps got a bit worse
You
since that red pill. I think so, yeah. It's I mean, there are certain demographic of people that are just that way, and then there's some girls that just won't tolerate it at all, fine. But I think, I kind of remember back in the days, it was, even when I was younger, that's how boys used to talk to girls, but I can only imagine that it's got worse.
Yeah, I think it's worse. It's like teaching them like social etiquette
Yeah.
is important, how you talk. Because if someone spoke, we say, if I spoke to your mum like that, they get really upset.
Yeah.
So it's like, so why is it that?
How is it different? If
You're
someone spoke to your sister or your aunt like that, yeah.
So the rules are not the same. It's like, no, it's just, it's a problem. Social interactions are a problem. How we value education for me is a problem. How we kind of like reflect on our behavior for me is a real problem. Like when communities outside of our community call us out, we get really upset. But then when we have our internal conversations, it's like we have things that are going in our communities that are not changing. I mean, it's they keep repeating themselves. And when we get called out for it, we get really defensive. But are we really doing the work? Like some of us are. I feel most of us are not. Well, a lot of us are just on autopilot. You know?
We're focused on other things, like trying to survive, let alone trying to support our communities or invest in it.
But if we're surviving, isn't that like we're on a plantation still?
Yes, definitely. I agree. I'm just saying, these are what people say, innit? Because oftentimes with families, whether they're like single or both parents in the house, they're focused on work.
Yeah.
By the time they get up and go to work and come home, they're too tired for anything else. Do you get what I'm saying?
And that's understandable. So with two, it's like, if you're too tired, I can kind of come in. So two is always better, or co-parenting.
Yeah.
You know, even if you have issues with the other person, try and co-parent
Focus
as
on the
much
child.
as you
Yeah,
can.
be
Yeah, make the
child-centered.
child like a business. Like, this is business. Like, the child is the investment. Yeah, we're both working together. And I know it's extremely difficult certain times, but as adults, you made the choice. We made the choices to do. It's not the child's fault. We made the choices to do what we do, and as a consequence, we've got this young mind that we need to nurture. So putting those things aside, like supporting families as well, like as communities. So I think just talking to a young person outside your family circle would be another step to kind of like start to deal with things that are happening with our young people. How are you doing? How's your week been? You know, what did you find difficult this week? What was challenging? Okay. What's next week looking like? 10-minute conversation. Yeah, I'll check in with you next week. Because people really they see the issues in our community, but it's like, I want to do my own stuff. But some of the problems are community-wide, and we need to do it as a collective. A bit like Voltron, collectively, you know, managing our own affairs
Yeah.
without people coming in telling us, oh, baby father this and what this, blah, blah, that, and your kids are not doing well at school and it's just like, it's the same narrative from when I was growing up. And it's tiring because a lot of people believe we're a certain type of way, not actually knowing any people of colour, but yet they have a lot to say about what we're not doing, you know. So it's about changing that narrative, especially with our kids.
100%. I definitely agree. Where certain people outside our community have a certain view, and obviously have the view of what we should or could be doing. But what I find interesting is when we do try to do that, we're accused of being reverse racist, or not being inclusive enough, including everybody else in what we're trying to do for our community. That you clearly can see that we have an issue going on, and only we can really address those issues ourselves, really, with allies maybe.
Yeah.
But
So as an ally, what are you supposed to just sit on the sideline until you're called on, rather than wanting to be in this? Isn't that a form of entitlement?
that's what I thought. But we're here.
So I was just,
I mean,
okay, so as a woman, how am I supporting you with misogyny and sexism?
yeah.
So if I'm now behind you, whatever you need me to support you with, you can call on me.
That's an ally.
If I'm like, I need to be upfront with you,
Yeah, then
I'm not an ally, am I?
course.
Because I'm taking up space. So I remember in school, the female teachers wanted me to talk about misogyny. I'm like, no, it's your lived experience. You need to be upfront. I can facilitate the conversation, but as soon as they're quiet, I'm stepping back. Because it's about your voice being heard, for them to actually know how you're feeling.
Yeah, and that's wild because of course you need to hear it from the person who's experienced it, opposed to, the same sex person in this case explaining to you what a woman's feeling. How does that work?
Yeah, but they listen to you, but you're just reinforcing.
Yeah, but they're gonna listen to you because you're a guy. That's why.
Yeah, it just reinforces the whole
the problem.
cycle.
Yeah,
So it's about me getting them into a space, asking them to listen, whether that's done one time or as many times as we need to, and you being able to be frank with them about how they're making you feel.
it's a very relevant analogy on the basis of when we're talking about cultural things. Having other people outside our community being allies. Yeah.
Yeah, because they have so many cultural. I don't know what it means to be a woman of color. I know it means to be a man of color, person of color, but you have certain things that you go through, like childbirth and the risk of dying. I'm never gonna go through that. Yeah.
And there's certain things that you're going to go through that I'm never going to go through. And that's why we need to be able to meet each other and hear each other and respect each other and work together as best as possible, isn't it? Be allies for each other where we can.
And that's another problem I feel like I see this. People don't want to work with certain people, or I'm going to do my own thing. And that only works, it doesn't work. In the history of getting things done, you have to work with other organizations.
And that's really collaborating, not just collaborating with someone and still kind of trying to control the narrative. I think people kind of don't necessarily, they understand what collaboration means, but they don't necessarily know how to implement it. So it's an actual collaboration. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. See, it's difficult. It's I'm getting tired. I can see when Tupac was saying that between certain ages you're a soldier.
Yeah.
Like a physical soldier, and then you get to a certain age and it's just like, I'm tired. I'm tired of just having to battle every day.
And it feels like you're doing it on your own sometimes.
Yeah,
hence
it
why you need the
definitely feels
collaboration. Yeah. I
Like
hear you.
every day in schools is just like every day. There's something, and it gets tiring and it just wanes on your well-being. It takes its toll. But I think the more people that come together, I'm hoping that the young people can really change, the narrative in terms of getting things done. Because it's really exhausting. Being in the same position. I feel like I've been in the same position for the last 40 years.
Gosh.
From when I was in school. That's what I see.
And not much has changed.
No. And that's disheartening, to be honest.
But a lot of people say that it has, but I feel like they're kind of almost superficial things. Like they're still
Like what?
the accomplishments. For example, when we're talking about the black community and stuff, what black people have been able to achieve nowadays. Like if it wasn't for people back in the days doing certain things, then we wouldn't necessarily have these opportunities now, which
Definitely.
obviously we're grateful for. However,
Should we be grateful?
well, I mean, grateful that no, we shouldn't. Yeah, you're right. But I'm just saying that despite what adversities we've had, we still had people from our communities who did do the work, which is I'm grateful that they were that they did despite the adversities. But even with that being said, yes, there's a lot of improvements. Not that there should be a need for improvements. As much as there are improvements, there's still elements of it where it doesn't feel like much has changed. Like, for example, as we're talking about the education system to somewhat degree, and you're very much involved in it from, I guess, not from a teacher perspective, but you're an educator. Do you know what I'm saying? You influence young people's minds in some way. And you can see from your experience being in school to the children being in school, not much has changed. Do you know what I'm saying? In terms of the quality of education and what they're teaching our children,
Yeah, it hasn't changed with time. School is the same way I was in school.
This is it.
Where teachers up front, no longer chalkboard. It's like nice whiteboard, but it's still like I deliver a lesson, you listen,
Memorize and regurgitate.
memorize. Some of the best lessons I've seen is student led. So the teacher will just be getting
Facilitating the
feedback.
space, yeah.
And then the kids are actually teaching them themselves. So it's like, what do you think about the Russian Revolution, the book by George Orwell? And it's like, the pigs were the party and they wanted to control everybody, and then all the other animals and then other. So what happened then? So the conversations are happening with the kids, and the teachers there just making sure that one person is talking at a time, and it just flows. Everybody's involved, but those lessons are hard to do because there's no time to train teachers to teach that way. So it's like you up front, classroom full of 30 kids, one teacher, a couple TAs. With all the technology, we're still like, why are we not moving? Why there's no flexibility with teaching?
And why aren't they listening to people like you who are in these environments and
Why would they listen to me?
Because you have the experience, isn't it? You have the lived experience, and you are able to command respect from the children that some teachers don't think is
Schools
possible.
are businesses, and GCSE's results are their business.
Yeah.
You get $7,000 for secondary school child from year 7 to 11. That's $7,000, 7G to, do what you need to do. So if you've got less kids coming into your, so really it's like 1-2 a year, 1,200 for the whole year, which is nothing compared to what do people pay in public schools like?
A lot of teachers are it appears to be that a lot of teachers are leaving the teaching industry. And I the conversations I've had with some teachers on the basis that they feel restricted, they can't do the things that they feel the children need. I see your eyes just, yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
Teaching is a noble profession, first and foremost. So I know at the age that I am, it's not really about the money. I could do other things and earn more money, but it's really changing young people's trajectory, turning metal into gold like an alchemist, because we've got lots of shiny metal kids out there, but they don't have the right nurture, so we can't turn them into gold. So they go by the wayside. Got a young person, found out the other week, whole family, his year 9 brothers, kind of in school. When I visited school, he's always in isolation. Why are you always in isolation when I come to this school? Yeah, older brother was killed. The middle brother now, I think he might be up for a murder charge. He's making his money, so I've been told. So when I saw them in year 4, 5, 6, I could already see the writing in the wall, and all it would have taken was an organisation to come and work with them. Yeah, but we missed them, and now they're statistics. You know, and it broke my heart. It really did. It really, really did. I think teachers now, young teachers, like they do it and they realise it's exhausting. 2-3 years they're gone. You know, they don't get the flexibility of like leadership are always on them. You have to do it this way. So being allowed to teach in a way that's dynamic, only the old school ones can do that.
That's mad crazy though, because you'd think the younger ones could be more relatable to the students.
I love it when I see young black men, like young mixed race black teachers in school, and they've got a zest to them, they've got a step to them. And you know, the kids love them because they're wearing some light trainers, and you know, we talk about trainers, and I love trainers, but to them I'm a granddad. Yeah, but I could do a whole trainer on lessons. Like, you don't understand trainer business. I could tell you.
You're a veteran in that.
Yeah,
culture.
I'm an OG, as I said. Yeah, and it's like understanding why we looked like to look a certain way.
Of course.
Like, talk about the Windrush generation that came with colour. You know, England was grey. My grandma would tell me, like, grey. And as soon as we stepped off the boat, it went yellow, green, all the colours of the Caribbean and Africa. And they, you know, they brought all of these cultural elements that brighten up the place and got nothing back in return. So the way we dress is a sign of our creativity. How we put colours together is a sign of the way we dance. All the things that, not just all the things that we do, we take for granted, that other cultures look at us like, how did you do that? It's like, we just do it. I call it black Bluetooth. We just do it. I could connect with another person of colour and I know you're thinking or feeling the same way. I don't think any other cultures do that.
Wow.
Like, you feel the same way about that sound, that music you just heard, the beat, not even just the acoustics, just the drum pattern, that made you feel a certain way. And we both understood that. And we don't have to say anything about some Bluetooth. Same with the youth. You're wearing the Jordans with the blue. Yeah, I like that. I said, did you just give him a compliment? No, I never just get. You just held him out. Like, yeah, you did. And there's nothing wrong with that because you respect what they're doing. So there's an element of things that we do that are so natural to us that makes other cultures think we can then monetize that, we can then turn it into something else. And then before you know it now, it's flipped back to us and we're like, hold on a minute. When did it become something you could buy? It's like it's almost put in a can and resold to us. And I really fear that a lot of the way we do things or our kids do things, it's been erased. They're just eroded every day. They're just stripped back. And they're coming and they're stripped back even more. And they're stripped back even more by the system. When they're vocal about something being unjust, you're being rude, you're being disrespectful. No, he's not. He's clearly upset about something, and if it was somebody else, you would have listened to them. But because they verbalised it in a certain way that you deemed aggressive, he's now in trouble. Like, he wasn't being aggressive.
No.
It's
He's
your
just being
cultural
expressive.
blind spot
Yeah.
that's made you think he's being aggressive. At no point did he raise his hand to you. At no point did he come into your personal space. And I was there and I saw it. But you felt frightened. You felt you were at risk. At no point did he make me feel at risk.
Do you think some of these people are conditioned to think this way about our young people?
Yeah, it's cognitive dissonance. You know, they believe that what they see is actually right. Because young people find it hard to articulate themselves anyway, So it might not come out in a way that you appreciate or understand. But you remember, they're like 14, 15. They're not the finished article.
They're children.
They're still children, so they find it hard to like say how they feel at any given moment. So sometimes when they get vexed, it's like, brother, go and take 5 minutes.
Yeah, but some adults find it difficult to express
Most
how
adults
they feel. Do you
can't
get what I'm saying?
self-regulate.
So to have that expectation on young people is just wild as well at the same time, you know?
Most adults can't regulate. So if you get upset, I'll give you 5 minutes. Yeah? I'll give you 5 minutes. And then we can talk. So I'm coming out your space, because me being on top of you is going to make you feel even more. So I'm going to come out your space. I'm going to leave you be. Maybe 20 minutes, we come back and we'll talk about what happened. Yeah? Young person's now calmed down. What happened? And I don't interrupt, I don't interject, I just listen to them. And it's like, okay, so how could you have done things differently? You know, maybe if I didn't bring in the zoo. Yeah, maybe.
God.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so it's on reflection, that was really stupid, but I didn't
yeah.
want to tell you that. I wanted you to
You
come
figure
to
it out yourself,
like,
yeah.
brother, what were you thinking? And the zoo just drop out the bag. In the head teacher's office. Like, why did you even go in your bag?
Why was it? Yeah, yeah.
And you know what, sir? That was stupid. I'm glad you know. Yeah? But it didn't. We didn't blow up. He's had time to rein it in. He's had time to, he or she, reflect on what you did wrong. And young people, we as human beings, we make so many mistakes. When I think about when I was 15, how stupid I was. And I wasn't on road or anything, but we just used to do some stupid things. Yeah, the amount of stupid things. Like, if my mum was here now, those kind of things. So when young, I understand it because you're learning to navigate your way into the world, and you do lots of things that will teach you. Maybe I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. So it's part of your developing your emotional intelligence. You do something, it's stupid. You don't do it again. Yeah, but no, you can't do that. But why can't I do that? Kind of things. Let him go and do it. See what happens. Go and do it.
Consequence. That's how you learn, isn't it?
You are your best teachers. So it's like you arguing with the teacher. So even though it was out of order, do you think arguing with the teacher changed the outcome? No. So why did you do it then? Okay, I get it now. So you just made it worse. So where you had a detention, it's now gone into a head teacher's detention. So where it could have just been a half an hour after school because you were raiding up, the teacher's like, okay, I'm gonna raise you since you want to be rude to me. So were you rude to her? And it's like, yeah, I was rude to her. Okay, you see what I mean? So had you not done that, it might have been a very different outcome. Just stepping back from being on the treadmill. But adults do that too.
100%. I think that's where our young people learn it from. Do you know what I mean? They remember we were talking about modeling the behavior,
Yeah.
and we're as adults, as parents, subconsciously modeling a behavior
Definitely.
that isn't helpful to our children. So, like, can you share how you first became interested in mindfulness and the potential benefits for children and young people?
I'd been doing yoga for a while. Just going to the gym, I just stumbled on a yoga class, looked in the window, and the teacher kind of like, come in. And I felt a bit like an idiot because they were doing all of these things and I couldn't do them. So over time, I just started going regularly, and I haven't stopped since. And then I had an opportunity on my Saturday school to go on a course. So it's like I had to do loads of hours of self-practice. That's why I take it, it's a passion because it's not just a fad for me or overnight thing. It's very much something embedded in my own life that I choose to share with people, you know. I practice daily. I had a chance to go on a course where about 6-7 weeks, you do 2-3 hours of practice, then you do your own practice. But within that, you have to do like 150 hours of your own practice recorded. So I did that and I loved it. And I was kind of introducing breathing techniques and self-regulation exercises in my pastoral classes. So when they were doing English and they were a bit half asleep, I said to the teacher, give me 5 minutes, let's wake up, move around, finger breathing, nostril breathing, reset. And the teacher was like, oh, that looks useful. So my coordinator said, I'm going to send you on a course, me and another colleague. And then I want these things that you bring back to be used in the classroom in the morning and then before they leave. So I got the opportunity to do a mindfulness course and then do a course called .B, which is basically mindfulness for secondary school kids. And I was just using their practices and resources. And then I got opportunity to deliver them through Success Club in Enfield Borough, to deliver them in primary schools.
Okay.
So I was doing lessons just around mindfulness and stress and anxiety. And so I was able to develop like my own resources So it wasn't just about breathing, it's also about looking at resilience, emotional intelligence, like kindness, communication, listening skills. Because a lot of the time when we're talking, especially at young people, we don't do much listening. And if there's anything that they need to do is learn how to listen. Because when a young person's talking to you, it's like, go and take off your jacket. Oh, why don't you take your jacket? You're not listening to me. Don't listen to respond, listen to understand. There are two very different types of listening skills. Yeah, if you're coming into my space and it's nice and warm in here, there's no need for your jacket. Yeah? Shut it down. It's finished. They go and take off their jacket. They sit down. No problem. We're not doing the whole I raise you, you raise me match. Yeah? They develop listening skills. So I used to play little games with them. Lots of little games, like communication line where I give them a sentence, they then pass it down the food chain. It used to be called Chinese whispers, but obviously I explained that's quite racist because it inferred that all Chinese people do is sit around and gossip. So it's like shut those kind of conversations down. And then by the time it got to the end, it was a completely different message.
Yeah.
So what happened then? What didn't you do well? This one, he was whispering in my ears. I didn't understand it. No, you weren't listening. Your message wasn't clear. So what could you have done better? And then they look at how they communicate. So it's like, you really need to know how to listen. So I really focus on when you come into my classes, we need to develop active listening. And they're like, what's that? It's like, okay. When someone's talking to you, you don't need to look in their eyes, but you kind of need to look in their direction. Because I know some cultures, looking in someone's eyes is deemed as disrespectful, and that's another cultural blind spot. I need you to look at me. So he doesn't want to look at you because in their culture, it's deemed disrespectful. So had you done your due diligence, certain parts of the world, looking at an adult, you need to know these things. See, they're not actually being rude. Yeah, they're showing you respect, but now it's taken a left turn. Don't interrupt. Don't interject. Don't rebuttal. Those are the kind of things you have in restorative meetings. And usually the students are much better than the teachers who are grown adults. Yeah, we're developing these skills. Yeah. Face the person that's talking to you. So all you need to do is adjust your chair. Just face them. Yeah, because if you're facing the other way, you're not really tuned in. And tune into what they're saying. If you don't understand something they're saying, please let them know. Yeah? So it's just building a language around developing emotional intelligence. So it just breath work. It's about all of these other things we use in these spaces to help people like be present. Because really, if you're present, you're aware of so many other things going on. So you're aware of your own stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'm feeling really tired today. I'm gonna find it hard to focus. Okay, take a 5 minutes. Don't go to sleep, but just reset.
Yeah.
I haven't had any food. Okay, we'll
Go
get
eat
you a
something.
breakfast bar.
Yeah.
Where's your water bottle? You need to be hydrated. Now you can go back into class. So it's little things that affect our days that we can sort out without having to do the whole thing. So that was my journey into mindfulness, my own practice, given the opportunity to then do courses that would help kids in school while using mindfulness, and then developing a whole curriculum around emotional intelligence. So I'm really grateful to Maxine for giving me the opportunity at Outward Bound because we were doing this 10, 11 years ago.
Gosh.
So this is not a new thing. So all the kids that are now working on the program that I'm part of, they were doing this with me ages ago. And I did something today with the year 9s in terms of exercises they can do. So it's definitely embedded in what we do at Outward Bound. And some schools sign up and they think it will change their students. And some schools, they do the shadow work, they do it themselves. I can come in and I can see the results of like, oh, you're doing this daily. I have lots of different games. I do a counting game where the numbers have to go up by 1, but your neighbor can't say the next number. And, you know, it's like, it gets tense because like I say, if you do it, if you get past 20, I'll get you a pizza. And they're like, okay. And they can't get past 5. But it's
They
more
try.
about
Yeah.
spatial awareness, leadership skills. So what I'm trying to do is teach them all the skills they need in the real world that they don't learn at school. So these skills, you need life skills,
Resilience. Yeah, man.
resilience.
So what inspired you to start the Mind Bubble project?
I just felt like there was just a space that I could carve out for myself. So it was almost like all the mindfulness teachers that I was seeing, they were not black or mixed race. They were just, my kids would just laugh at you coming in there with your sandals talking about Zen. So I felt like this is my lane now. I've been doing it for a while personally, and I want to carve out my own space that nobody else is in. So I just went head in. My daughter and my wife came up with the name, MindBubbles. So a bubble is basically a thought. And we have between like 70,000 and 100,000 thoughts a day. So MindBubbles, mind
Say that
thoughts.
again.
So a
How
bubble
many thoughts you said?
between 70,000 and 100 thoughts a day, on average, a human being. That could probably be more for kids. So do you know what you were thinking about 5 minutes ago? Outside our conversation.
No.
Yeah.
But there's thoughts that just, I guess I'm probably thinking about the next question or leading the conversation in the right way. So, yeah.
Because you can't
And
stop
or
yourself.
people walking
Yeah.
past.
You can't stop yourself from thinking, but you can slow it down.
Yeah.
You can't, there's a game I play where I can make your mind go blank, but really you can't just say, I'm not going to think about anything, because your mind is designed to do that.
Yeah.
So when we break down what the brain does and why it does it, then for the kids it makes so much sense when they get angry and they can't manage themselves. So it's like that film, remember Inside Out?
Yeah.
A lot of them know the characters, even though they think they're big people now. It's like, oh, that's Joan. I use that analogy. So it's like, who was the control center? The PFC, the prefrontal cortex. We're going to call it the perfect fried chicken. I remember that one. The amygdala. What's the amygdala? I've got 6-year-olds that can tell you which part of the brains do what. The amygdala is the alarm system. So as soon as you feel any sense of danger, this will start. It's like behind your ears. Little thing, like the amygdala goes off. It's your something's happening. We need to get out of it. Yeah, your hippocampus is where your thoughts and emotions are linked. So if you're feeling a certain way about something, so if you're happy, you go into the hippocampus and you pull out a happy thought. So obviously, if you're overwhelmed or you're sad or you're angry, what are you going to pull out?
Hopefully you're happy for it.
Then you go in and you get
Okay.
a strong thought about being angry.
Yeah.
And then another one, a historical one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's what Joan, when my man got angry and he was thinking about.
Yeah.
Yes, it's linked. Like when you're talking in a language, you can make it very, very simple. You don't need to use highfalutin language to tell a young person how their brain functions and why they have so many different emotions that they can't understand. They understand it. You just have to put it in the language that you're working with. You know, like when I sit down and I breathe, I get heavier. That's a 7-year-old talking. So what happens is my legs feel heavier, so I feel more grounded.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't think many adults, unless they're trained, can explain.
Experience that. Yeah.
They can explain it because they feel every single thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. So when I come in from the playground, I know I'm a bit. So when we then do the exercises, Stephen, and we do the by the end of it, I feel like an anchor, like I'm anchored.
I guess I'm because I think I'm hearing what you're saying, and I have a little bit of
Yeah.
knowledge about mindfulness and emotional intelligence. I guess one of the things that kind of sparks my interest in that field is having grown up. Like if you have as a child has negative thoughts, and I don't mean negative like super negative, but they might have a lot on their mind, and they're always not reassured, but told by adults, don't think too much about that or don't think too deeply into that, and try to force a child to have positive thoughts instead, which can sometimes work, but then mind will eventually go back to the problem that they're thinking about. What's your thoughts on the concepts of like toxic positivity? If there's even such a thing as far as you're concerned.
I like that spin. I think mindfulness isn't for everyone. And if you've got things that historically going on, I'd always suggest seeking
Professional support, definitely.
9 times out of 10, because all sitting in stillness is going to do is trigger you,
Yeah.
because you're there with your thoughts. So we can
It can
give
be
you
hard for young people. though.
even more so,
Yeah.
even more so. So it's really recognizing what could work for them. And it doesn't mean they have to sit in stillness. You could be moving, mindful movement. So do something you enjoy. So cycling, as I mentioned before, is my mindful movement, because when you're cycling or running
Yeah.
or you're outside,
The focus on something else. Yeah.
something green, something yellow, something, you're moving. So it isn't just about sitting in stillness and breathing with your eyes closed. It's about doing something that makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So that's everyday mindfulness.
I mean, I'm an advocate for affirmations and these kinds of things
Yeah,
to get your mind
journaling.
right, and journaling and stuff. But like I said, but there are some people that have this thought and notion that, you know, affirmations don't work because X, Y, Z and yada yada.
You got to try it though. If you haven't tried it, how do you know it doesn't work?
Of course.
Because I
I
mean,
agree.
if I haven't tried it, then I can't talk on. Like I've done a little bit of journaling, but if someone said to me, "Does journaling work?" I don't personally know, but I know people that do it.
Yeah, and it works for them.
And
And they
it
didn't
works
just
for
try
them.
it once; they tried it over a period of
Yeah.
time.
So there's
Yeah.
a stream of consciousness thing that we do. We got a poetry slam coming up. So when we start the young people off, we give them a topic and they just free write. No punctuation, no grammar. So the topic is ice cream. Vanilla ice cream. Da, da, da. Don't, when you get stuck, just say, I don't know what to write, until another stream of consciousness comes in. By the end of it, full page, just about ice cream. Ice cream makes me feel good because when I touch it in my belly, the coldness of and it's like, you take the structure away, the rigidness, and they're able to flow. So I find that really empowering, because I really enjoy the poetry slam because it opens up so many creative juices for a lot of our young people who hate poetry. Like, why do you hate poetry? Most of the songs that you listen to are spoken word with music. So rap is rhythm and poetry. You know,
ironic 'cause
Shakespeare used to write in, I forgot what it's called, 4 words.
Is it a soliloquy? I can't remember. Yeah.
So like 4 words, and then it was like almost like a 16-bar, 4-bar loop. So it'd be like, he's rapping. So how are you telling me Shakespeare is rapping? It's a 4-bar loop. Rapping isn't something new. People have been doing it for centuries, but obviously we've cultivated it in the last 50 years. Something black people have been doing since time immemorial in different forms. People have always rapped over beats. But it's just what you think of what rap music is like maybe 50, 60 years old. But Shakespeare was writing in a pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when Akala was doing his hip hop Shakespeare and relating to both, it was blowing people's minds. So it's about relating something to young people that will help them grow. What makes you feel good? It's like, reading a book. Okay, that's mindfulness. It makes you feel good. Yeah. What else makes you feel good? Talking to my friends. So maybe rather than isolating yourself with these deep thoughts, talking to like your friends. You don't have to talk about
The
what's
problem
going
or the
on,
issue,
but just
but-
talking with
Yeah.
somebody, being social is a good way. And you knew that when you were in COVID, that a lot of the kids found it so difficult because they're now school, no social interaction. I'm just here with my thoughts. So a lot of kids, they regressed. They became anxious. They lost that fire, and a lot of them haven't got that fire back. As a young person.
Yeah, it was even challenging for some of the home ed community because, despite popular belief, home eders do actually engage in other activities other than keeping our children under the stairs at home or something.
Yeah.
But not that we do that, we don't do that. I was just joking before someone comes at me for saying so. But the activities in for home eders, like we might not be in a school environment every day, but not being able to do activities, you can see the impact it's had on
That's a
children
huge,
overall.
huge impact, and I'm hoping that we can get the young people.
Yeah, and it's something we weren't prepared for
No,
properly.
no one was prepared for that reset. I don't
Yeah.
care how, it knocked, from what I saw, it knocked a lot of people for six emotionally, and even though we came out of it and people are going like, what was it, 3 years ago? Nothing ever happened. It changed me. My hardwiring changed.
Yeah.
I saw it in my family, I saw it with friends, I saw it with a lot of our kids.
Yeah.
It's changed them. And I think if you acknowledge it, it's now part of you, it's easier to deal with. If it's like you're just gonna kind of like, people lost people. I lost family members. It's not something that just, it disappears, So it's very much part of my development. The COVID period is one of my toughest periods of my life, like my adult life. And I hope for young people, they can kind of see like light. If they do the right type of work and they do the reflection and they're honest with themselves, they can come out the other end. It's just a matter of time,
Yeah. The same length of time it took to get into that state, you might need that time and a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit.
To work
a
our
little
way
bit
out of
more.
it.
And they're human. It's like acknowledge that you're
Yeah.
human and you're fallible and you fall down and you can get back up. And it's really my work is supporting them with that. Like, you fell down, let's get back up. Dust yourself off,
So what advice would you give to educators who are interested in incorporating mindfulness into their classrooms?
There's lots of videos on YouTube. So it's not just about breathing techniques, it's about engaging your young people. So how you talk to them is probably the most important thing. Talking to them with a certain, how can I say it? I mean, I think a teacher observed my form group. I got a little form group now, all the challenging kids in my school, year nines. I had about 15 of them. And it was like, at first it was like army camp, stand up, sit down, wait outside. I was like, I can't do this. It's not me, the shouting thing. I think what you can do is how you speak to your young people is important. How you listen is important. Short exercises. So like temperature check in the morning.
What's that?
So temperature check in the morning is like, how are you feeling out of 10 today? I'm feeling like an 8. I'm gonna have a good day. I'm a 6, man. I never had no Rice Krispies. Okay, we're gonna sort that out. Yeah. How many of you got water bottles? How many of you got your books? Right. Let's do a quick breathing. So nostril breathing where 2 breaths there. Let's take it over, 2 breaths. Reset the brain. I explain to them why. Yeah. Finger breathing maybe. So all of these exercises are really, really simple. And you could do them with the kids. And then once they're comfortable doing them, you could get a student to lead, just to observe them. Trauma-informed. So like, a lot of our kids are coming from homes that are very dysfunctional. Being able to read when your young person comes in and they're all over the place. So trauma-informed training is available for schools. And our school's going to do that. Short practices, listening games, making the lesson kind of fun and upbeat, a little bit away from, if you've got an opportunity to do your lesson a little bit different, incorporating movement. Like I've got a game called Pigeon where you got to get one person sitting down, you have to stop them from sitting down, yeah? 5 minutes, okay, back to lessons. Have them moving around. So after 20 minutes, get them moving around, change seats. Because after 15 minutes, half of them are like,
Yeah.
it's hard to focus.
Yeah. Especially when their minds are so used to social media and the devices and stuff nowadays. Would you agree?
Yeah.
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 You can use, there's loads of, like, our maths teacher uses booklet. So they do maths quizzes. So it's basically a competition. And they use, like, you do 5 slides, different equations. First team to win, get a little chocolate or something.
Yeah.
And it's
A bit of an
interactive.
incentive. Yeah.
It's interactive. Stop this we don't need to. We need to move with the technology.
Yeah.
Like we're still in the Victorian times. It feels like we're still in the Victorian times
Yeah.
where, you know, quiet class, teacher at the front, everybody listening.
Yeah.
We're too slow to be innovative. We need to like move with what's happening. And once you start, they're embedded in my classroom now. So I'll get the kids to lead. And then I incorporate it in the lessons, like, okay, maths, five things that are red. So not maths, like five objects that are red. So we have 4 tables, 4 kids in each table. Write it down. 5 things that are red. Telephone box, bus, chocolate. Okay. 5 learning styles. Metaphor, onomatopoeia, da. And before they know it, they're learning. Like, you tricked us. It was objects, and now it's about learning or science. Okay, 5 animals that are vertebrates. And they get competitive, so they want to win. But you're introduced. It's like a trick.
Yeah.
See, it's still mindfulness because you're trying to make them think, critically about how they see the world. Then we have a conversation about how they see school.
I was going to ask you about how are you able to measure the success of the programs that you're doing?
You can't really measure. I mean, that's the problem with schools. They want outcomes, and if I always like to meet with the schools before I go in, and if it's like they want outcomes, and it's like, as much as I need the money, I don't want to do this because what you want and what the kids need are 2 different things. Yeah, you want outcomes, you want their behaviour to change. I'm only coming in here 1 or 2 hours a week. What would you think I can do that would change their behaviour? So it's got to be, I'm happy to come in, but don't expect a change. You will see a change in how they listen. So I've had feedback, they're more confident in class and I put their hand up when they know an answer to a question. They're more regulated, they're not coming in and they're all over the place. And that's working with them for like 11, 12 weeks. So they're incremental changes, but they're fundamental in terms of how the young person learns. But it's whether the school sees that vision. So I have to have a conversation with them about, this is the work that I do, can be the outcomes if we're on the same page. Now, if we're not on the same page, then it's nice meeting you, but I know that I'm not going to get a good testimonial out of school because you want a very different outcome.
Yeah.
And I've worked with some fantastic schools, I've worked with some fantastic teachers, Miss Kofi is one of my favourite teachers. She's in a school in Enfield and worked with her class for a year, 1 hour a week. They had the best year 6 maths results in the whole borough of Enfield.
Good. That's
Not
amazing.
because of just what I was doing, but she used to use a lot of the things that I was doing in her daily classroom. So the kids became very, very sharp, very, like switched on. English wasn't their first language for a lot of them, but yeah, they understood.
Yeah.
And it was such a joy to see because when they gave testimonies, and I've said this before, I was nearly in tears because they said that, through doing the breathing exercises at home, I was got ready for my stats. So even though I was nervous, I was able to do like finger breathing and it basically helped me pass because I know I was calm. So hearing that from a 11-year-old, it kind of validates my work because sometimes I think, what's the point? Because the school's values are not aligned with mine.
Yeah.
And they want very different outcomes. So
of course, the point is the child's experience.
the young person's,
Yeah.
and that I hold value in that. Inside I was crying because their reflection was so honest that they knew their starting point, they knew their baseline, and they knew the destination, but it was more about the journey they took. As I said, most adults can't do that. Like I was finding it difficult, but using Mrs. and Sirs like the exercises, because we're doing every week, we teach something, every week for a whole year. So it meant that I'll come in the class and they were excited to see me. I haven't gone into many classes and the kids are excited to see me. You know, Stephen's here, yeah, wow. And I'm like, okay. You're happy to see me? Like, yeah, we've been looking forward to this. And that means that I love the work I do when I go into a classroom and the kids are like, it's the highlight of their day. It means that I'm doing the right type of work,
That's good.
you know.
I love that. So we kind of touched on it a bit, but what are some of the misconceptions people might have about mindfulness, especially when it comes to teaching it to children?
They might change their behaviour. It's the biggest misconception. They work straight away. It's a very slow process. It's not for everybody. I made that clear from the beginning. It's esoteric. For some of these kids, they'll get it. For a lot of them, it's going to take a long time. For some of them, they're never going to get it because they just don't have the emotional intelligence to even know. There's just too many other things going on. But they try it. So just try it. Just give me your word that you will try it for a couple of months. And then if you feel the same way about it, then we'll make you go and do some English or maths revision. Yeah? But normally, the misconceptions are mainly from staff, just by the way they operate. So the teacher will go and mark work. So you as a teacher, I need you to do with classroom management. I don't know who's behaving from who isn't. I know, but you know that the young person's, you know, doing some things they shouldn't be. I wouldn't know that. They go and start marking work. Miss or sir, I need you involved in this. Yeah, and we can then crack on with the lesson. So I think a lot of repetition, a lot of small, short exercises.
Patience.
Most important thing, listening, being able to listen well. Having one voice in the class, or in your space. So I have the one mic thing, which is like, when I have the mic,
yeah, it's me talking.
talking stick. Who's got the talking stick? Why are you talking? You don't have the talking stick. And they regularly, you don't have the talking stick, you shouldn't be talking. All right. My bad. Like, no, don't talk. Mikey's got the talking stick. Why are you interjecting for? So they end up managing themselves. And it's a beautiful thing to see. And it can happen really quickly or it could take ages. But you do see the results. It depends on who you're working with. You know, usually they put the challenging kids all together. I tell SLT, it's like having, if you're a clown, and then you go to another circus, and you got all your clown brethren there, are you likely to listen? Okay. So you have to pick up the clowns one by one.
Yeah.
No point putting them in a whole different circus, because when you're trying to embed they're all messing around. Yeah? And it becomes so difficult for the teacher to, you don't put...
It's a wild thing to do, but you understand why they do it, but it's not doing anything for anyone.
Yeah, focus
positive.
groups don't work. You pick them off one by one. And then if you're going to have a focus group, you have several adults in there that can take kids out, stop doing what you're doing, go back in. Yeah, but this is how people think. You got to know your kids. You got to know their culture. You got to know what kind of homes they're coming from. So if I'm working with a demographic that isn't me, I will read up on them. I have conversations with them.
I was about to say you would listen to them, yeah, and do the reason up as well.
Yeah.
But definitely listen.
And if it's a certain group that I don't think I can relate to, I say I'm not going to do the work. You need to get somebody who looks like them, who speaks like them, to do the mentoring. Like, why? We can't find them. Then there's organisations out there.
Or learn for yourselves so you can do it. Like, if you can appoint someone in the school, I'm sure they should be able to do that, no?
You would think so. I always, did a Bengali school, and I said to them after I finished, you need to get a Bengali mentor.
I get what you mean.
Like, why? Because
the culture.
I'm not of their culture. And as much as we can do certain things, it gets to the point where there needs to be some cultural competency here. Yeah? So someone who can speak maybe Bengali when they're acting, they just tell them about themselves. Or if I call mum or dad and I speak in Bengali, it's peak for you. Yeah? Rather than sir, and I'm like, and they don't might not necessarily understand, especially the mums. Yeah? If I'm calling home, mum, auntie,
Yeah.
okay.
I get you.
It's a wrap for you when you get home, trust me. Mum fully understood what I said. Yeah, okay, come in.
And there was no room for prejudices or anything.
No,
yeah,
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have too many cultural blind spots in education.
That's interesting.
Way too many. Because how I would talk to a young person of colour is very different from like what you do in bedroom. You
I
know?
hear that. Yeah, yeah.
And they
And
hear
we've
it.
experienced that as just the black community, let alone all the other global majority
Yeah, you got to
community
have.
members.
We need to be in leadership. Sorry, we were segueing.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right.
We need to be in leadership. There are not enough people of colour in leadership roles. Like there's a glass ceiling. Like you maybe get to head a year, deputy head, and you're like, that's your lot. You know, and the ones in leadership, they're for themselves. You know, so they're not trying to open the gate to master's house. You're not coming in a plantation house. This is my house. It's me and master's house. Okay. So not only do I have senior leadership, I've got you as the buffer to get past. You know, because you're eating good food and wearing nice clothes, kind of thing. So they're problematic. I'm not going to lie. They're very problematic. I'm hoping one day, you know, not too soon, that we see a lot of dynamic people of colour in senior positions, and they really make a difference in schools.
Yeah.
Because what you're telling the kids that you're not going to be successful because there's a system set up for you to fail. Yeah. So not only will we fail you, we will fail the black adults that come in the school. Yeah, because they can't make, and the kids see it. It's like, how come they're now senior leadership that look like me? And the kids,
mad.
we haven't found anyone. And I'm like, no, this is racist. And they don't know what to say
Yeah.
because they're calling it for what it is.
And the children are technically like,
Stakeholders.
right, and they can tell you what teachers they can connect with or can influence them in a positive way from the ones that they don't necessarily have that connection. Why would they not listen to those students?
I can't talk to them. They're like, well,
But this teacher can, this person can.
so how come this one can and then
yeah.
they don't listen to you? Because you're always shouting at them for a start, and they're probably thinking you don't understand the type of homes they come from.
Yeah.
Or you live in Edgware and they live in Archway.
It's
So
kind of cultural class.
you're going up the hill,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going
yeah.
down the hill. It's a completely different world. Where I'm like, I live in Islington, I'll see you on road. If you see me on road and you're doing the wrong thing, trust me.
Yeah, but there's ego attached to that as well, because I guess educated teachers, you know, they want to believe that they've been educated to teach, and they just think that education to teach is enough. But there's a lot more to it.
Now you need your passport.
Yeah.
You need a passport, you know. I'm very aware of that. In some spaces, I'm probably not going to be as
Suitable.
effective.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not even going to entertain, you can go and work in a private school and earn twice as much. But I probably wouldn't enjoy it,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
hear you.
Well, what am I getting out of it? Who am I moving forward? There's no social capital for me, where with kids that are already set up for life.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if they fail or not. They're
Yeah.
good. But I love to see a young person whose family are struggling and they're able to provide
Yeah.
a beacon of hope for the next generation.
Be successful.
Yeah.
Breaking that mold. Yeah.
It's hard.
So how can individuals and organizations get involved and support the work of the Mind Bubble Project?
Well, I'm on most social media platforms. MindBubbles Project, Instagram. My website is mindbubbles.co.uk. I'm on LinkedIn, Stephen Ismail Thomas. TikTok, MindBubbles. Yeah. And my email is mindbubblesproject71@gmail.com. So feel free to get in touch with me. I'm happy to do collabs. I'm happy to work together on projects, come into schools. I do community workshops for adults. I stopped doing them for a while. I'm going to start them back up again. I was doing them monthly, just for people to come in and do some work on breathing techniques and finding ways to self-regulate. And to be honest, I'm willing to have a conversation. Whoever wants to have a conversation about how they can best move forward in their own practice. I mean, I'm not a guru or anything, but you know, my stuff is quite practical and hands-on. It isn't rocket science, and I feel a lot of us could do with some kind of like first aid, checking up, not just mindfulness, but just checking up on our own mental health, like being able to see signs when, you know, you're tired or you're overwhelmed and, you know, you're completely stressed out. Because, you know, living in this type of environment does take its toll, and it's like self-care is the best care,
Yeah.
you know, and we didn't have I wouldn't say our parents did the best job in teaching us how to like look after ourselves. Like I found like a lot of elders are surviving, and I've said this before, so they're in survival mode.
Yeah, they'll focus on other things.
I want to be like the rest of the world where they can have headspace, and we're not afforded headspace or restitution. Like when we rest, it's like, why are you resting for? Don't you have things to do?
You're lazy.
Yeah. And that's a thing, that's a byproduct of slavery, I think.
Yeah.
Like, oh, black people are lazy. No, we're not lazy. We don't know how to rest. We go home and we clean our yards. I mean, when did we sit down? Well, the rest of the world is like they go walk. I mean, I ride my bike to Richmond Park. You know how many white people walking around? Like outside. And I only see this when I go, like, going out of London. They're doing something that we're not doing. They're going for walks.
They're resting.
Restitution, yeah? Going to galleries, going to theatres, cinemas are of a staple, but they're doing things that we just don't consider rest.
Yeah, we don't value it.
That's why
And we
restitution
don't have the
is
opportunity
important.
to as well, because sometimes it might be out of our affordability at times.
Yeah,
to,
this is also
you know,
economic apartheid,
yeah.
but I mean, going for a walk is free.
I definitely agree. So finally, if you could offer one piece of advice to parents who want to support their children's mental and emotional health through mindfulness, what would it be?
I get asked this question quite a bit. So obviously, depending on the young person, it can. So you're looking at their well-being, so how they feel on a daily basis, how they feel on a weekly basis. So is their low mood persistent? So like they've been in a low mood for a couple of weeks? Or is it like, oh, just today I'm feeling... So for instance, my daughter's, she's not much of a talker, year 10. So you know when we used to come into school, how was your day? She's just, okay, I need to change my approach. So it'd be like, who did you sit next to at lunchtime? Why, Dad? It's like, just tell me who you sat next to at lunchtime. I sat next to Maria. Okay. Did you sit next to Maria yesterday? Like, no, I didn't. I sat next to Sophia. Why are you asking me this? Okay, so another question. What was the hardest rule you had to follow today? So rather than asking, how was maths? How was English? What did you learn? It's like, I can't remember. Okay, the teacher asked me to do this. Don't know why she asked me for. So what did you have to do? I had to go to the office and take the register, and I didn't want to do it. So that was the hardest rule. Oh, I was supposed to listen to something and I didn't get the instruction. That was the hardest thing to do. All right. So having conversations with your young people, like real conversations, is probably my baseline. Yeah, finding out what they actually think. A lot of parents don't really understand their young people, and that includes me.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't
Yeah,
know
I
what goes
agree.
in their head. Like we think we do, but that was like, for me, that was a 30-year-old years ago. These young people think very different.
Differently.
Their world is very different. So they don't think like you. They think like them. So having a real conversation with your young person, like sit down on their bed and, they don't come out the room. Like,
Never.
yeah. So you go to this, not for too long because it's intrusive.
Yeah.
Like, can you leave, please?
The rules and regulations
Yeah.
are real.
Just have a conversation. Make it light. Don't make it too. And then you can start to, over time, okay, how are you doing? How are you really doing? It's a temperature check. How's your week been? How did you find those exams? What made the exam difficult? Did you have enough time? Were you feeling anxious? Okay. How's your friendship groups? Yeah? How much time are you using social media? They're not going to be honest, but you can kind of gauge.
Yeah. But even if they're not being honest, they're reflecting themselves internally on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so reflecting on where they are in any given moment. So the conversation today might be slightly different from yesterday. And I think that it's important that we allow young people the space to talk, even if they're not saying anything. Just have comfortable silence.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world if the conversation just becomes like awkward. Just, and they're your son or daughter or non-binary, whatever you. It's important for them to feel like they can be listened to. So if things are coming up, how you signpost them. So most schools, you can reach out to the schools or do it through your borough youth club, CAMS referral. So that's the young people's mental health service. And it isn't like they have to be going through stuff, but they might want to talk to somebody that's outside their family where they don't feel awkward. So in your borough, I think you can get 6 sessions for free.
Okay.
But the waiting list is long, so you need to get on it.
Yeah.
Or you can go through your doctor to get a CAMS referral. And I think in the community, the stigma around mental health and seeing a therapist and all of those things, we need to dismantle that. We should be giving our young people an opportunity to talk about their mental health. It's the thing that's, for me, the most important thing. How you're feeling. If you're having persistent low mood and you see that as a parent, you need to have a conversation with your young person and talk to them about how you signpost them. Because low mood is like adult depression much later along the line, which can lead to
all kinds of.
So we can. If it's something they're going to be living with, let's get used to using certain language. Let's get used to not stigmatizing them. Like, you need to be a little bit more resilient.
Yeah. What does that mean? In this climate as well.
And no, it should be a conversation about there are times in your life where life is peaks and troughs.
Yes.
So it isn't that you just walk straight. If you just walk straight, there's an obstacle at some point.
Yeah, and sometimes you do 3 steps forward and 2 steps back.
How
and
do
then
you get
another
around
5.
that obstacle?
Yeah.
What kind of tools do you need to get around that obstacle? Is it something that can happen overnight, or is it a gradual journey?
And these are real skills that we're preparing our children. Because that's what I was saying this before. Like, I don't feel like, and it's not necessarily a responsibility of schools to do that, but we're not necessarily prepared for life when we leave school. And like you said, there's peaks and troughs, isn't it? So it's like, how do we prepare our children for this? But what you're doing is definitely a testimony to some of that. And I really appreciate that you're able, and someone like you is doing that in these schools with our young people.
There's lots of people doing it. I'm one of many.
Well, you're the one that I know.
Yeah. I value the work that I do, and I thank God for giving me the opportunity to do the work. I'm passionate about what I do, and I hope the kids see that in terms of like the interactions they have. And I'm happy with what I do. I don't get paid a lot, but I get a lot of job satisfaction. Like Saturdays, I get up with zest. I look forward to my day. Tomorrow, I'm going to taking some kids to a basketball game for them to get a reward. And even though it's Sunday, and the last thing I'll do the fact that young people are being celebrated, I could just step back and allow them to be acknowledged. Is some of my most important work, and I'm doing that with Proud and Gifted as well. So he will also, because it's really about, when we talk about young people, it's always adults talking about their achievements. No, they can talk for themselves.
And celebrate each other.
They can, exactly. And I think when I had one young person celebrated, I'm going to big him up. I'm not going to say his name because he got a chance to play for England basketball on the back of the year he's had for the school. So I interviewed him, and it was like, how do you feel about playing for England? And he's like, no, how do you really feel? Because that's a huge accomplishment. I know people that have played for England and it's changed their trajectory. Even now, I play for England, It was like, I don't think you realise
how big that is,
because you will inspire other young kids that are coming behind you. So if he can do it in our school, I could play for England one day. So it gives people the opportunity to be in spaces they might not normally be in. And I think he kind of did that. And when he saw the responses in, like, the comments, then he realised.
That's what it takes sometimes. But, you know, thank you so much, Stephen.
No problem. Thank you for
joining
having me.
us.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to bring my work.
You're always
to the public
welcome. And it's
arena.
honestly, anytime, always welcome. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Black British Parent Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And until next time, take care and stay blessed.